Good morning. I think we're ready to start. Thank you for your patience as we have some new technology that is going to allow us to expand our audience from what we have here in person to share with Facebook and YouTube. And we will provide a link after the program so that it's shared through the library community as well. My name is Linnea. I am the Adult Services Librarian for here at the Chanhassen Library. I'm also a proud member of the Chanhassen Communities of Belonging. And we are so happy today for our forum to be talking about all the wonderful volunteers who have created news in the desert. We have had a trying time with trying to get local information shared, and all of the people who have stepped up to make this happen, we are so grateful for, because this builds community. And so I am going to turn it over to Dan and Kelly to fill you in on what's been going on. And then we hope that you will see this, share this, we'll pass along links, and that we might let others know and grow our community through news. Thank you for being here.
Well, good morning. Thanks to all who braved the cold and the snow to come out this morning, and welcome to all the people that are viewing us on live stream. I'm Dan Keyport. I'm one of the board members on this better, like this? Okay. All right. So again, I'm Dan Keyport. I'm one of the board members for Carver County Local News. And Kelly, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kelly Schmitz. I'm a volunteer editor for CCLN.
Okay, thank you. How many of you remember hearing that the Chan Villager had closed? Yeah, that was, when I heard that the Chaska Herald closed, kind of a gut punch. Like, oh my God, our town doesn't have a newspaper. You know, I grew up reading the newspaper, and that was hard. And I think that closure affected a lot of people the same way. And so, yeah, so, oh, there we go. So there was a group of people that gathered, I think it was here in the Chan Library, that met with Eden Prairie, had gone through a similar thing several years earlier. And they held a meeting, and probably 40, 50 people showed up. It was a big group, and talked about, this is a problem, somebody should do something. And that kind of became, well, that we should do something, because there was nobody else really to pick up that slack. So we got together, we formed a 501c3, and started a newspaper. So our purpose that we established at that stage of the process was to provide timely, trustworthy, hyperlocal, nonpartisan news. The Eden Prairie Local News had gone through this, and we followed their lead, tried to follow their model to an extent, but also developed our own model. Woodbury was going through the same thing. They were at this meeting. And so our vision was web only, because really many of the costs of a newspaper operation are the printing and distribution. And we had no money. So we started web only, and we got volunteers, volunteer content contributors, and volunteer editors, volunteers to build out the platform, and so on. So, and we got our nonprofit certification. We decided to make it free, and kind of follow the Minnesota Radio membership model was kind of our thinking at that point, that people would volunteer to have an objective community. So, you know, the alternative to a professionally produced news organization is oftentimes social media. And the content that you get in social media is not vetted, it's not verified, it's not sourced. It's what floats to the top is the most engaging, which is often the most divisive kinds of material. And it's just a really, really awful place to get your news, because it becomes for you, then you build your own echo chamber. And we wanted to really, no, we wanted it to be reliable, trustworthy, objective, and so on. And that's hard to do. I mean, that's, I think Kelly can speak to that. As an editor, people have opinions, and you covered this story, and you shouldn't have because it's against my views. Well, but it's a story, you know. So what have we done? What's happened in the year and a half since the paper's closed? Well, quite a bit, actually. We formally created the organization in July of 2024. We incorporated as a 501c3. We have the 4 founding board members are still on board and still putting in the time. We have, the last count was 27 content contributors, and 2 editors that support those contributors. We've had about $8,000 in individual donations, which is fantastic. And we've got institutional donors like Rotary, Lions, Carver Community Fund, people like that have contributed to help make this a reality. And we've got some advertising revenue, which we want to build on, but that's a start. So we're thrilled to have that. And then October last year is when we formally launched. We launched with a voter's guide. That was our very first publication. And that was timely. It was right before the November election, and it was very well received. We've published since then more than 600 articles and 267,000 site visits, so it's getting in front of a lot of people. And we have, the subscription is free. We have 1,200 subscribers, so people that get an email every time there's a story. So, and 2,200 followers on Facebook, which is terrific. And we average over 2,000 users per day. So it's really come a tremendously long ways. Well, and to put this in a little bit of perspective as well, Eden Prairie News was 3 or 4 years ahead of us. The Eden Prairie population is roughly 70,000. The 4 communities that we serve, Carver, Chanhassen, and Victoria, is just about the same, or 65, 68,000, something like that. They have about 4,000 subscribers. So we're, they're a couple years ahead of us, but we're on track, I think, to get there. So that's good. So what's next? Well, we have 27 content contributors. We could use some more. What we don't have is someone who sits in on every city council meeting and writes a summary for the paper. We'd love to have that. That's important stuff. And we get some of that, but we don't get enough of that. With all of our contributors are volunteers. And when there's a story that we know that needs to be written, we have to go find somebody to do it.
Yeah.
And that can, they're all volunteers, so you don't always get what you want relative to coverage. So we're looking for volunteers to contribute as writers. We've got this sponsorship and donor model. We need to know our sponsors and donors. Organizations like Auburn Homes is an advertiser, and kind of, I think they view those dollars as much community development as they do advertising. And Nicolay Bank, same thing. They say, yeah, we want to support this in our community, and they're not counting, how many million clicks did you get? That, how much per click? That's not our model. Southwest Prime is another big sponsor, and they run a prominent ad. But again, I think they're looking at it more as community building than as advertising dollars. So, and we could use some more of those. We want to build that base, the community donor base. Again, we've had good response from the community. I think there's a lot more potential there, especially if you look at what Eden Prairie is doing. And our kind of a dream goal here is to have $100,000 of sustainable revenue. Because what that would do for this paper is make it sustainable in that we could have a full-time managing editor and a part-time operations person, someone to actually do the mechanics of getting the stories published each day. That, I think, is what it would take to really make this a sustainable operation. So that's our goal. We're not there yet. In fact, we're a ways from that. So, and what would we ask of you? Well, volunteer. You know, we could use some more writers, and we're applying for a number of different grants. We could use help grant writing. We don't have any accounting professionals in our volunteer base that, so as the board member who kind of deals with the QuickBooks stuff, man, I need some help on that. There's some real skills there that we lack. So we don't have any accounting professionals on our staff, so you know, some of the tax filing and some of that would be helpful to have volunteers on. Help us find other sponsors or advertisers, donate, of course, and share our news with your friends and family. And again, the subscription is free. You know, I was chatting earlier, I may not read the sports stuff, but I sure love the Birds of Carver County column, you know. So there's something in there for everybody. We span a lot of topic areas. So, and then tell people to like our Facebook and Instagram pages, because that helps spread the word. So at this point, I guess I'd open it up for questions. Yes.
Are you only online?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're not putting anything else in
Right.
the
Right. Right. Yeah. The printing and distribution costs that 100,000 wouldn't near even be enough for that. I mean, that just adds so much overhead. You know, yes, it's pretty. Go ahead.
It's about 1 to 2 articles a day. If we have more writers, more volunteers, then we can increase that number. The only thing that will part is the group that we have, because we fully volunteer on it. But we do average about 1 to 2 a day. So about a year now, we've done, some days we've had up to 2, but minimum is 1 per day.
Yeah, I will say one of our, the question was about print and that we don't have it. So one of the things we'd like to do, it's a technology development project for us, is to be able to hit a button and say, as on the back end here, and say, okay, assemble all of last week's news into a PDF so that we could have a printed format. And the library could print their own. We don't have to distribute it. It's there as a PDF. And we could print a handful and throw them in coffee shops. You know, if someone wanted to pay for a mailing subscription, there might be enough critical mass to make that happen. But it would all be driven by subscribers that are paying at that point. So we'd like to get there. It's a project. We don't have the technology resources or money just to go do that tomorrow, but it's on our vision. So, any more questions? Yes. Yeah, the question is, would sponsors support that? I think they would. I think there's a lot of potential there. Yeah.
So while we say yes, before we commit to an idea, the biggest problem is we need people to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not as simple as, oh yes, we can make it happen. We need someone on this, whether it's volunteer or paid, however, the team that is creating that printable version, sending it out to people, making sure it's updated once a month, once a week, because it's not as simple as, oh, you print out the website, right? So
No.
to make it on bulletin board, you have to have it in the right format and all these things. So I physically cannot commit any more hours a day into this. So, it's not just that we can't do it, we want to do it. We're ready to do it, but we do need the team to grow as well. So the big part of this is also letting the community know, not just that there's news, but there are a lot of ways to get involved. So a big part of it is like, even if someone has a few hours a week to give, maybe a couple hours a day, once a week, or something like that. If someone has a special skill set, we probably have a place for them, for something to do. And it's not about, you have to be a tech genius, right? If someone is only good at X, Y, and Z, that's all they have to look at, and someone else who is able to can focus on something else. So the more we grow our team, the more we can do all these things. So we really want to. I know we've had a conversation about putting it in library, which if we can get it into print, public notices would be a huge thing. Sponsorships would be a huge thing, ads, but we need people.
Yeah.
So if anybody's not, we're not asking all of you to jump in, you're welcome to, but it's also about if you know people who are good at certain things or are interested. And we don't really have an office, so you sit at home in your pajamas and do it at 2 a.m. if you need to. No one's gonna stop you. That's what I do. So that's not the limitation, it is just commitment.
And I'm sorry, but Bhakti did not get introduced coming in. She is one of our founding board members, and she is the architect of the news platform. She built it, and I think if you are a subscriber, it's really nice. It's as good as anything out there. Yeah. And so I'm really proud of our platform and Bhakti for building it. So, other questions? Yes. So the question is about volunteering, and we actually have an onboarding process for content contributors. And it includes things like agreeing to our code of journalistic ethics. That's important. If you're not on board with that, then you don't belong in this organization. And those policies are on the website, so you can, I think under About Us, you can drill down into that. And there's the ethics, and there's more. There's
4 or 5 policies
Yeah.
that we have on the site, so people can peruse that you're following the 4 committees.
Yeah. But
Yeah. So we do twice a month. We have an online meeting for our content creators. So it's like an open meeting to Wednesdays a month. People come, some come to all of them, some come to when they can. And that's really when we cover a lot of these things, whether anyone has questions or does anyone have an idea that they want to ask about how to approach. We go through any news tips we receive from the site. We do assignments. And that's also a time if someone's having technical issues, you're like, I can't figure this out, and then we kind of work together. And on many occasions, right after the call, the guy stayed on with someone who's having technical issues, and we walked through the steps. I actually helped them set everything up on their computer. So we actually have quite a few people on the content writing staff who could not even tell you what a browser is, but they're able to submit articles just fine. We make sure once it's set up, then the process hasn't changed in over a year. So we don't want anything complicated for anyone. It's just a matter of anything with technology. You do have to learn it once, and then you should be set. And you can talk about that because you could submit a lot. And
Yeah.
you attend the meetings too.
Yeah. So Bhakti asked me to talk about how the article committee works. It's pretty straightforward. It does need to be initial. We have essentially a system of a link on our website that you can click on. You upload your document that you've written. People do it all sorts of different things. There's no formatting requirements, so it's not like you have to follow a certain font choice or a certain, spacing or anything. Most people just type them into a Word document, upload them to a form, and submit. If you've got pictures, you upload the pictures and submit. They come to us in the back end, either through a spreadsheet that I can then open when something gets submitted, I get an email. There's a new article, and I go in, open it up, and make tweaks or changes. And I think it's one important thing that I hear a lot from folks in the community who want to be involved but are not trained writers or journalists, that it's really not that critical to do that. That's what editors are for. That's part of my job is kind of like what I've been doing here. We kind of hang out in the background and we don't create a lot of content, but when the content comes in, we clarify and make things, easier to understand. We make sure that the AP style is followed. We make sure that, word choice is appropriate and things are, as standardized and understandable as we can. But, you don't have to be an excellent writer to do that. We will help make what you've written into an excellent article. So that's my job. That's what I'm here for. We try to make it as easy as possible and as accessible for the community as possible, because you don't have to be a trained journalist to bear witness to things in the community and write about what happens.
And, when people think about articles, I also occasionally put in an article that I write up, and I hesitate at first as well because I've never done anything like this. But not every piece is a feature story that needs hours and hours of research. It could be something simple as this and that happened. Many people came. There's a quote from a person, and it's like 3 paragraphs long. It's like a text you're sending a friend about what happened at the event, and then that can be fixed to make it work with everything that we have going on. So the scary part of it kind of gets taken away when you're thinking about if you were just sending an email to someone about something you saw. That's kind of what we're trying to do, but keeping it biased. But that's also we've got Kelly and Jeff, our 2 editors, and they're very good at taking out things that they're like, no, it's gonna go, and they get the final say, and that's important. So the voice is consistent, even though there are many writers, about 25 plus, who put in an article here and there, but it matches because they do a really good job at reviewing that.
I would just add that editorial function is really a critical process. It's one of the key differentiators between social media and a newspaper, is that it gets subject to professional editing and journalistic standards. That's so important. And, I've had my work cut up, and that's okay. No, that's how it is. But we did have, someone wrote a big, wonderful piece on a restaurant that opened, and it got shrunk down to about 20% of the size because we're not in the business of puffing up other, restaurants. That's not, here it's opened, and here's what they do, and here's what the general manager said. That's really all we need in that piece. We don't need you to go on and on and on about cheesecake or whatever. So, yes, another question. No, yeah, the question is, have we had the Chanhassen person that identifies new businesses? No, that would be a great potential source.
No, that's where I can bug Patrick and say, hey, why haven't you, that's a little bit here. So.
Well, and we are trying to partner with other organizations in the community, especially the cities. I think the partnership with cities is really important, and it's a potential area of revenue down the road for the newspaper. If we can get to the point where we're able to do public notices, that would be terrific. Those public notices are what's keeping the few remaining print newspapers afloat. So. Go ahead. The question is, what's our focus geographically? And our focus is the 4 cities of eastern Carver County, Chaska, Chan, Victoria, Carver. Not to say we wouldn't ever do a Minnesota level or a national or an international level article, but there are other channels for that, and that's not really what we're about. We do have a host of what I will call general interest. There's a column on birds of Carver County that's really outstanding. It's a local photographer and a birder, and it's terrific. And that's not, but it's specific to Carver County, I guess, but And I write a travel blog that's general news or general interest. It's a general interest, but anything that's location specific is pretty much Eastern Carver County. So, yeah. Oh, yes, Kelly.
We have occasionally had folks ask, can we do a story about something happening in the state or something happening nationally? And as an editorial team, we typically say if it has a Carver County tie. So if an Eastern Carver County person is out doing something in a place or has done something there was one in someone from Chaska was a producer of a documentary about the stolen ruby slippers from the Judy Garland museum up in Grand Rapids. Obviously, Grand Rapids is not really our thing. Movies or documentary is not really our thing, but because it was produced and made by this person who lives here in Chaska, we thought that was relevant enough to our community to warrant that article. So I think thinking of it in that terms where, if a Chaska person was getting recognized at the state level for doing a thing, that would be something we would cover, where otherwise we wouldn't cover that award or recognition or whatever.
I want to add to that. So the other side of that is we also have semi-partnerships with Eden Prairie Local News and InPost. So we actually keep an eye out on those publications. If they ever publish anything that relates to, or like she said, connected to a person or an organization in one of the cities, we actually have permission from them. Why, if we credit them, to repost that. So that actually helps. We haven't had too much of that because InPost isn't going to all the way go out here, but there have been some things when it comes to legislative decisions and stuff where we had people from the district be represented, and we have reposted those sorts of things. And restaurant closures, like the Prairie has put out a interview that they have changed that also exist in Chaska or Chan, so we are able to repost those. So we are able to extend our reach, but the best example is, I don't know if anyone has seen that show West Wing. One of the greatest shows ever. I'm rewatching it right now, and it's excellent. And it just so happened that 2 days ago, I was watching an episode where they were talking about in the press briefing room which news organizations are allowed to be in there. And they're like, well, we've got 3 for every corporation. What about the little guys? And one of them is like, have you seen the local news? It's all about high school sports. I'm like, no, it is. It is about high school sports.
Yeah.
We don't need to be covering all those big things. They got it covered.
Yeah.
No one else is covering the little things. No one else is covering if a group of people went out there and planted something for the community. So if I feel like if we start covering the big events, a lot of it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. There's no one else to do local news. Your only alternative would be social media. And I'm on social media, but for news purposes, that's awful. It's just awful. So, yes. For all 4 cities, yeah. Now, that doesn't have to be one person doing all 4 cities. That would be,
even a fully functioning newspaper would not have one person for 4 cities.
Yeah. But those, I think all 4 cities have an online alternative, so you don't have to drive to Victoria to see their council meeting. You can even get an AI summary of that meeting and pull out the things that are relevant to the 4 communities. So
yeah, so so the question was the city and county meetings and viewing them online and not being able to ask questions. So first, you can, most of them are streamed either on YouTube or somewhere else. You can get them, the nice thing about that is you can get them afterwards. A lot of times during the evening, they can go kind of late.
they overlap.
Yeah, sometimes they do overlap. The county commissioners are at like 10 a.m. or something on Tuesday. I'm working, I can't do that. But one thing that you can do is you can call and talk to people later. I think, especially because we are not the kind of news organization that's posting it that night or the next day. So when I was a journalist back 20 years ago, in a small Wisconsin daily. My beat was K-12 education, and so school board meetings. Every other week, school board meeting, I was there late Mondays. I would go and sit through the meeting and then go back to the office and file a story for printing in the next morning run. That's not how we do things. Most of the things that are being covered and talked about can be printed or posted a day later, the next day. It's not so much of this is immediate things that are happening. What we want is for people to be informed about what we discussed and what's going on. So there's leeway for watching online, contacting city council people or mayors the next day, the day after, and then filing the story maybe a couple days later. We're not that up to date. And once we have some kind of order or something, maybe we could be a little bit faster on the timely, but like there was a slide back here that says we'd rather have it good than fast. And, so taking the time to call people afterwards, it doesn't need to be immediate.
And, so for example, those meetings, all those recordings are on the website. And I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to do some kind of a demo here, but actually on the Carver County Local News website, we have a link to all the city council recordings. So you can actually go there pretty directly. I'm going to figure out how this works while I'm talking. That's not a good idea. So anyone is welcome to watch those. And for any of the cities, we also have links directly to the city pages where you can actually find contact information for the council members, commission members, if they have their email public. So there have been occasions where we'll send an email saying, we're looking for a quote on this, or we have a follow-up question on this, and they may take a couple of days, but they will respond because they do want to make sure they're connected as well to the community. And, regarding the urgencies, sometimes we do put things out a week later, but that's also because we want to take time to verify. And sometimes with like Facebook and other things, organizations put out their own statements and things immediately. So by waiting some time, we get a different perspective of like who all has put something out. What else can we add that's not already out there? That being said, if there are urgent incidences, like we had with the school protests, we actually have a writer, volunteer, who's in high school, and he's excellent, and he writes some really good, insightful things regarding the student life. And we texted him in the middle of school day saying, hey, we know the protests are happening in school, can you write something about it? And he immediately wrote something, sent it in the evening. When Michael Vinicius of Chanhassen Communities passed away, we did an immediate turnaround as soon as it was made public. So there are things that we'll keep an eye out if it's urgent, if it's immediate. There was like a weather-related incident once that was affecting multiple places. But the rest, we're okay taking our time.
So the question was if she were to watch a conversation online and then write up an article and submit it, that we would verify some of those things. Right now in our editorial process, we are trusting the writers that what they have written, what people have said, and what has happened. We don't have on staff fact checkers like you might have at a really big paper like the New York Times or something like that. But we edit for clarity. If we have questions, we'll reach out. But as far as like spelling of names of people and things like that, we just kind of go by what the reporter has put in there because we're just a small two-person team and we don't have a lot of time to be verifying all the everything. But we trust that you have done the research and put in the factual information.
I'll mention too, one piece that we don't have that you may notice is an opinion section, letters to the editor. We in talking with people in the newspaper business, that's one of the more time-consuming and expensive parts of operating a newspaper because of the legal concerns. There's a lot of legal challenges to things that land in the paper, and it typically is related to what's on the opinion page. So we made the decision just not to go there.
Yeah.
So,
A wise decision. Yeah.
Although we do have, so I think where that varies a little bit is we invite letters from our local officials that they can submit to kind of talk about whatever is on their mind, and they rotate through. So
Chanhassen Corner just came out.
Chanhassen Corner just came out from the mayors.
Yep.
Each submit a thing, and
I'm actually showing it right.
oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll put in their own, their own mayor's opinion on what's happening in their city. I just edited one last night. I don't think it's posted yet, from Lisa Anderson, County Commissioner Lisa Anderson, about how to show up at county commission meetings to do public forum or questions or things like that. And that is very much her opinion, but because she's a local elected official, that is a place where we're giving her a platform to be to share that.
And they're pre-approved, like we've worked with them in advance to set up a plan to do this monthly. So it's not like someone from the city is randomly setting something and we're just updating it. So we have worked with them in advance to make sure we're good with the process and who will be submitting things about. So we're very much not really about this. And I pulled this up here. So we actually have a few different on the site called series here, where if there are repeating articles about certain topics or ongoing things, we have them grouped together so it's easier to keep up. So here we have Mayor and City's Corner. So this here will be a collection of all the pieces that have been sent to us by the cities and the communication directors and the mayors. And then we have a separate one for the county commissioners, and these are all people we work with because they submit things regularly. So it's nice to be able to see historically what all, just check everything for Carver. Now, I did want to show this if we were talking about it. Up here under community, you'll see that you can actually pick a specific city for the county level. So let's say we go to Chanhassen. It's going to take a minute, but I've got too much going on my computer, and it's not like me. But here, if you go to Chanhassen, if things work in Chanhassen, that organizations have submitted. If you scroll all the way down, this is where we have learn more about the city, where we actually give you the city council agenda and recording in their files. So even if you don't know where to go to find if someone's interested, you just come here, and we have direct links that I do check every few months to make sure they're working. Sometimes they have changed, but this will take you directly to the council meeting and agenda notes. So that way, at least we have a link, even if we're not able to cover everything, we do want to make sure people have the option to head there themselves.
I would say our most visited pages are the sports pages. We do have obituaries. They're free. We're not capturing every obituary that comes out. We did get funeral homes in the habit of sending us the notices. But that's something that people frequently mention that they miss from their print newspaper is that, oh, so-and-so died. Who knew? And how do you find out otherwise? So that's, I think, an important element as well.
So events is a big one.
And yes, exactly, events. Community organizations, cities, park and rec departments can submit all their events to our event page for free. So that's a great way to get the word out for people, and that is
That's our event right there. Where do you
there we go. Yeah. So that's a very well visited and a very important part of our newspaper as well. So.
To the historical society, never post.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Let me put that up right now, actually.
So the question was if the historical society put up posts, and those are some of my favorite new things. So they have recently started sending us what used to be in the Chaska Herald with like today and or this week in Chaska, and they would pull old stuff from the old Heralds from just completely random dates or years for that time period. And so now we're putting those up monthly, and there's one for each day in the month, and one may be from 1875, and one might be from 1970, and it's fascinating to me One of my favorite things to edit because there's not a whole lot of editing to do there. Pre-edited by my historical counterparts. But they give a ton of insight into what this area was like back then. But I think it's also really interesting from a journalistic perspective to see how news has evolved and what news used to look like. Like this line, notice is hereby given that after the first day of January 1884, I will change to the cash system and will sell my meat for cash only. All those indebted to me are requested to settle their accounts at once. Henry Gale, the butcher. And I love this. The New Year's. Yes, the New Year's dance at the Opera House last Monday evening was rather poorly attended. What's happening in 1952?
Yeah.
What happened? But I love that this kind of perspective that what we consider news now is seems like what needs to be very important, highly divisive, like things that are happening. The city's going to come and tear down their favorite parks to make way for a data or something. There's a lot of value to the community part of local news. Yeah. I feel like we lose that a lot when we're stuck watching corporate news from the national level. We don't have that kind of local thing. I'm not going to probably report on, the party that was held at this house that was very well attended at the time. But there's something to be said for this, a lot more local things that remind you that you're part of this city, this community, and the part you can play in it, the role that other people have around you. So it's actually kind of refreshing to get those perspectives, and I kind of think of it as, people are intimidated to try news writing, and it can be more like what it used to be back then, where you go to a city council meeting, and there was a city council meeting, they talked about X, Y, Z. They voted on this, and this is how they voted. We don't need the kind of reporting where it has the left side said it was snowing, the right side said it was not snowing. And they argued for a long time about whether it was snowing or not, and now the paper has what they wanted for you to tell them that it snowed. And that's all they are looking for right now is this is happening in your city. We're not telling you what it's supposed to be, what we want to happen. It's just that it's happening to you discuss, and then the readers can go and make up their mind.
To also give you guys an idea of the different variety of things, this is an example. We recently started one of the series called Book Nook Corner, which I'm loving. So we have Kathy as the primary one, but then a few others where if there's anything related to local book events, author events, and this is one example where it's not specifically these four cities. We've kind of expanded to Minnesota or local authors or local stories and things like that. So when there's an author talk happening, or there's an event for a book sale or book signing or whatever for local authors or local books, we put those out there. Sometimes there are even book reviews by authors from Minnesota or local. So those are really fun to see because where else am I going to get that? One of my favorite local stories, this is a great example, which by the way shows how you can actually search for anything. If you were looking for information, just a few keywords and it will bring up information. I'm waiting for these guys to send me another one, but last year this was one of my favorite articles we published, and it was a super hit actually, where in Chaska there's a local book club. They call themselves the Forgetful Men's Book Club, and they've been meeting for like 20, 30 years, and all they did was submit a press release saying this is what we voted as our book of the year. And that's it. Like, how else would you know these things? Ironically, in a separate book club that I'm part of, we also read that book and it was one of our favorites. So we were like, oh, there's another book club out there that's what we like. That means they're reading something good. So this is also local news, which, like Kelly said, news doesn't have to be scary, which, people need to be scary stuff, and that's how they get the clicks, but sometimes you just want to know what a good book is.
What you have about the intentionality of how everything is created is really amazing. just see how they have the sponsors, but it's not like ad after ad.
Yeah. There's no pop-ups in your face. Yeah.
They're not pop-ups, so there's this functionality of hyper-local focus and growing things out of, it's very intentional in how it's growing and stabilizing to make sure that there's that awareness and it's not just that, oh, look at all these businesses that community that we have a lot with it. So
Yeah, so we're very, very specific that we only do pop-ups maybe a couple of times a year, but that's for important things like when we had our donation campaign for matching at the end of the year. The last 2 weeks of December, if you logged in, you would see a pop-up saying, hey, please, support us if you haven't already, but it's not going to be in your face. Like if we set to only get that once or twice a day, so it's not every time you go. Well, our goal is not to put ads where you have to click through this to get to something else. Even with an article, we try to space it out so you just did it. It's a long article, but this article is so short, you don't even see an ad because it doesn't even hit the minimum requirements to have an ad. So, and there's no paywall, so there's nothing you're not accessing for free. So there's no behind the scenes. And one of my also favorite things is we love to do community polls. So here on the right, we rotate those. So every month or so, we have a few different sets of questions where these are anonymous. We have no idea who's submitting them. And some of them are super important, like we ask questions of like, how long have you lived in Carver County? That gives us an understanding of the community and who's reading it. And then some of them are fun, like which is your favorite sledding spot? Right? And maybe if we get enough responses, we may reach out to the sledding spot saying, hey, you were voted as the favorite sledding spot on our site. Let's have a conversation. And that's also new. So we actually have a whole page that on the side, each page has a rotation version, but we have a whole page of really fun polls that we put out there. And some are seasonal. So in the fall, there were fall-related questions. Right now, we have questions, what's the thing you hate most about winter? What's the thing you love most about winter? So we are always open to more ideas as well of how we want to collect information from the community without accessing your own personal data. This is just us learning about people.
I also thought I should mention podcast.
oh, yeah, please.
We have the Carver County Local News podcast hosted by Mike Long. He talks to local community leaders, nonprofit leaders, elected officials, just folks who are doing good stuff in the community, and those go up month?
Every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you are connected to a podcast device, that is, I think, it's put on Apple Podcasts, maybe Spotify,
like it's
Audible, everywhere, all the pod places. So it's really good, and they have some really great conversations. So some stuff for your ears too.
And kind of that's our request of all of you is think about your personal and professional network, and those kind of connections are tremendously valuable, and we'd love to have those. And I would say one of our objectives from the beginning has been to have balance across all four communities. In terms of, we want people on the board from those communities, we want writers from those communities, we want to partner with the historical societies and the park and rec departments, and that's our world. We want all those people. We don't have as much of, like we have a little bit from Carver and a little bit from Victoria, more from Chan and a lot from Chaska, but help, get involved, or connect us with people you know that would be a good fit. So.
Oh, you had mentioned this word before, Nick, about one thing I did want to point out very clearly is pretty much none of our content is strictly AI generated. We make sure of that, especially in today's day and age. We definitely, encourage people to use AI to enhance what they've done. So we're working on finding, because most of the people as part of our crew are not journalists by profession, or not writers by profession. So we can use AI to be like, what are the right questions to ask when you're doing it, or what kind of things to look for in an event. But the writing is very clearly part of our guidelines, like you have to write it. I mean, yes, you can throw it into the grammar check or verbiage check and things like that. And we're also going to be working on our side to use AI tools to enhance our services and our offerings. But even with images, there'll be a rare occasion where we do AI generated images, and if that's the case, it's actually very obvious, and the image description behind the scenes does say AI generated super safe content. Because sometimes we'll have things submitted that don't have an image. You know, you need a picture to get people's attention. So we'll try to throw something out there, but it's not replacing something. If we have something real, we're not going to put AI into it at all. And if we do, we'll be clear about it. And we're not against AI. It's just a matter of using it right. I'll of course want to say it and run up this entire site as possible without AI input because we don't have enough hours a day. We don't know everything. So, but we're very clear when it comes to the journalist side that we don't use AI for writing articles.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. We've also talked a little bit about, I'm an AI. I have a complicated relationship with AI. It can be a helpful tool. I can use it in some parts of like my own work and absolutely not in other parts of my work. When it comes to content creation, that for me is a hard line. No, we do not need computers telling us what's happening in our communities, but what people are for. That's why we're here, and we need that. But there are some things I think that can be helpful, especially when you're looking at sitting through a 2-3 hour city council meeting or board meeting or something, and there, like YouTube has a little AI tool that summarizes what this video is about. It may give you timestamps of what they talked about and then where they talked about it, so then you can pop to those certain timestamps and watch from there. So you're not necessarily having to comb through 2 hours of video to find that topic. It will help you. So I think that's where the AI really comes in as the journalist's friend to just help you filter through 2 hours worth of information into finding the information that you need to find more quickly so that you can summarize it better and then use your own human brain to watch and record and create content.
Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, the question is about publishing public notices. That still is a legal requirement. The school district and the cities have moved their publication of public notices to, I think, the Minnetonka newspaper, the Waconia newspaper, the Star Tribune, various other places. There is a move afoot to change that law. That would be a two-edged sword, in that papers like the Waconia Patriot they rely on it. I don't know that they would survive without those public notices. And there are newspapers like that all over the state, same issue. And could we capture that business if the law changed? Maybe. We'd sure try, because I think that would be, but that's one of the reasons we're looking towards being able to assemble a printable version, is because that could be where we meet the legal requirement for printing public notices. And that's a potential revenue stream, so.
The question was about police reports and police blotters. That's actually something we just recently brought up to the Carver County Sheriff and the Chaska Police, and it's something that's actually an unread email in my inbox right now. A lot of those places don't do the kind of crime blotters like they used to, like when I was a newspaper, when I had my weekend that I had to cover, all the things happening in the city by myself. We would go down to the police station, see the public record, go through and find anything that looked particularly, important or
Salacious, I think is the word you're looking for.
Well, newsworthy, right? And newsworthy, maybe news things that were like 7 news and above, or things like that. Where there was like an armed robbery or something that was maybe related to public safety rather than like traffic stops and things like that. Now, a lot of that stuff is online. They have not exactly a blotter, but they have a call map. So the Carver County Sheriff has a list of all the calls that they get every day and what it was, who was involved. So we're looking at getting that, but I think part of the challenge there is, again, you need someone to go through and take out the things that are actually newsworthy and not, just spewing all of that content onto the site, because then you're forcing the reader to go through and try to figure out what word is newsworthy. People don't have that kind of time or that expertise. And that's where rumors start happening, stuff that can get out of hand. Social media, again, fans those flames, and so making sure that you're covering for the right information and having them through that.
But then did we do a full article or how they can look it up?
Yeah, the question was if we can do an article about how to look and stuff like that. Certainly. It's kind of like what we have with the links to the city videos, links to the council meetings and things like that. There could be a link to the Carver County crime site, and then people can peruse at their leisure. I think that
And just look at those articles or those pieces. So there have been occasions when something really big happens, we will try to repost something that the county has shared on social media onto our social media. So there are occasions where there will be a few things on social media that are not direct articles because same thing that requires us to write, research, edit, all of that, versus we can share something key and important with the rest of the community. And then same with podcasts, all those things are not articles that are already there. So we do have a few different streams of information flowing with tweets and stuff. So it's not like you only follow on Facebook or site, you're going to see the same thing all the time. So 80-90% the same, but we've got extras. That being said, obviously Facebook is our biggest traffic driver, but we are on Instagram and we recently just joined Twitter, X, Nextdoor, and LinkedIn. So Nextdoor, we know it's a great way to reach out to community members. It's also a great way to argue with community members, but that's not our goal. But the reason I say that is because most families are on Nextdoor. Those households are actually there. So we believe that would be a really good way to start doing some outreach and with certain articles, sharing within those communities. So if you guys are on Nextdoor, feel free to repost some of our articles. And we just started this month, about a month ago, but going forward, they will be all on there as well.
Other questions? Yeah.
the question was, how can you use AI to go through city council meetings? So that's something I think is we can train. Baki is very technologically savvy. I am moderately technologically savvy. We have editors and writers who do that, but there are really tools just built into YouTube that help you find certain things. There's transcripts. Yeah, it makes transcripts, and then you can put the transcript in, and it pulls out, pieces from the transcript. But none of that replaces watching, listening, and verifying with over human eyes.
So if anybody's interested in that, and if you sign up, same thing, like we can do one-on-one training that makes sense to whatever you're looking to do. So because it may not be the same depending on what you're trying to accomplish, person by person, story by story. But we are also on our side starting to build CCLN specific AI help. So assistant where we have, so we've created this where it's taught that if someone needs help researching an article, only talk about cases in this county, this city. Use examples from our site. So it's not so generic where it'll spin out something really random that doesn't make sense. So we're actually going to try, and we're testing it now, same thing for the council meeting. So it's not enough to just put a transcript in and get a summary, but what are we looking for Carver County local news? And we kind of taught that in advance, so it will help you get there faster to write things. So you don't need to know how to do that. If you're interested in it, you can be trained in it. All you have to know is what to click where and what to add where. So don't be stressed about technology. That part we can help manage. So we've done that a lot here. I've screen shared into people's computers, and I've said, I'm taking control hands off. Let me set everything up, and then we're good. So it's totally doable.
Anyone?
Okay. Well, again, thank you all for braving the weather and coming out. And if you haven't subscribed already, we look forward to having you join our party. So.
And right here, yeah. So I can put QR code back up again, but it is just cplocalnews.org. And I think the business cards are back there. You can grab one on the way out. It's just our website and the link and everything. Just wanted to show you a couple things. That there's a subscribe on the site. If you go, there is a page for subscribe across the top where it gives you step-by-step instructions if you're not as comfortable with how to manage it. So with screenshots, you can actually get guided on exactly how to subscribe for what. We also have our donate option there, which we will shamelessly push for. Please donate. And then this is also a big one where this is the page for our upcoming, but this is the page for press releases and news tips. So this is where we actually get a lot of organizations that submit press releases to us, which we then push out as content from CCLN, but it is from certain organizations. And so anyone is welcome to submit press releases and the organization at the event. So that's something where you don't have to be a writer, but then you still do have edit requirement over that. So we may still change the things around in our hands. And news tips is also important because we track the story idea of news tips. So we got a lot of great insights, like the Ruby Slippers story that she was saying. We got that as a story idea. Someone said, hey, my friend is doing this, here's the contact information. And then someone from our team reached out or got in touch. So if you guys know of story ideas and you don't want to write, you can still submit them because we may not get to everything because of volunteer limitations, but at least that helps us prioritize. If we get 10 ideas that we may not have known, we say these are the most important, let's focus our attention here. And if you are interested in volunteering, we have a volunteer page. We're going to be adding some more things on there on what kinds of things you can get involved in. And we will be adding a little bit more on like how much time this takes. So it's easy for you to identify, like, can I put this in hours? Can I put that much effort? And she's wearing an example here, and so it has her, if you want to stand up, well, we've got some really beautiful merch. So, and it's not just Carver County local news, it's like this, it says, your voice, your news, your county. I have one that says support local news. So, and obviously the name is important, but it's also that concept of getting that out there, reminding people. So my merch, as part of that, does go to our funds as well. And on every article, that's the other thing is, if I let me just show an example. At the bottom of every article that we post, the most recent, we do have at the very, very bottom here. It's kind of small, but you can take a look when you're on your computer. But we have like a little. Why is it doing this? Here we go. Like a little, kind of just some disclaimers that we are volunteer run. We have these limitations. If there's an error, it's misspelling is what's called because I think I'm doing it usually. But make like a strong copy paste or something like that. There's like a direct correction link, so you can actually, you don't have to stress about sharing like, oh, this doesn't look right. Like you said, with fact checking, sometimes we may have missed something or have the wrong information. So you can directly submit right from that article. You're like, all right, this is what I noticed was wrong, and one of us takes a look and can check it. So there's a lot of ways for you guys to, that also helps us because we can't check everything too. So a lot of ways for you guys to get connected and help out. And
Okay.
anything from the peanut gallery? Right. It depends. Are you looking on your phone or? Okay. It's also like we do have these like rotating ads. Sometimes if they advertise, sometimes if they donate, sometimes if they subscribe. So you may feel, but it kind of catches your eye like exactly that. Reminds you to do that. But we do have little reminders that you can miss it.
Yeah.
You can ask me to donate and subscribe everywhere.
Well, let's say thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Live stream and the link will be online on the COB website, as well as we'll share it on Facebook, and it's already on Carver County Local News Facebook as the streaming link. So we'll share it. So feel free to share this with others down the line as well. And visit our site.
Yeah.